It's time to get a new M car. You might be like myself where you've got kids, you want to get yourself a 4-door. Well, are you going to get the M5? Are you going to get the M3? You're thinking straight 6, you're thinking V8. Let's have a look at the pros and cons of both cars and see which one's going to suit you best. Some information about the two particular cars behind me. They are both X-Drive. This car you can actually get rear-wheel drive or X-Drive. This only comes as an X-Drive. They are both 8-speed automatics. They are both competition models. They're both sapphire black. That's a 2019. That's a 2022. Let's talk about pricing. This car is actually 3 years older than the one over here. So in this particular comparison, that car's actually just under £20,000 cheaper than that one. But if you're looking at similar years, the pricing is near identical. So I would say that if you are not bothered by year, the F90 is going to win it. If you're looking for similar years, then the pricing is about the same on both of them. Let's talk about looks. M5s, always purposely understated. They don't look so aggressive as, say, an M2, an M3, an M4, and that's on purpose. I find that with a couple of bits of carbon here and there, you can make them look perfect, where if someone looks at it, they look at it and go, oh, that's a really nice car, that looks pretty mean, but it doesn't look crazy. It's something where I find driving that car around, it's not going to attract that much attention in terms of how it looks, but maybe it'll turn heads because of the sound that it makes. The same cannot be said for the G80 M3. It certainly is a head turner, sometimes for the wrong reasons. A lot of people don't like the front grills on these, but for me, it's simple. Change it out, put a bit of carbon on it, and as far as I'm concerned, it looks like a Batmobile now. It looks really good in terms of styling. So much so that it really is a head turner, and people will stop to put their thumbs up, tell me how nice it looks. It does gain itself a lot of attention, a lot more so than the M5. Sound comparison. You can't beat the M5 for this. Twin turbo 4.4 V8. It's one of the best things about this car, but we'll have a sound off anyway and you can decide. Here's the M3. Of course, both of these are stage 2. This also has a big single mid pipe on it as well. So let's have a listen. Let's talk about performance. So, this car out the box, 600 brake. This car out the box, 500 brake. So, as you could probably work out, that car's faster. It's only faster by a margin though. The interesting thing is, when we actually begin to tune these cars, you actually find that they run identical times, at least at velocity tuning anyway. So, 0 to 60, quarter mile, 100 to 200, Stage 1, Stage 2 and Stage 2 with ethanol, these both ran identical times. So for Stage 2, for example, they're both 5.500 to 200. They're both 2.5 0 to 60. Go splashing a bit of race fuel, they're both doing a 4.900 to 200. They're both doing a 9.9 quarter mile. So in terms of which one is faster, they are literally the same. Go for which one you like most. Where it gets different is when you push further than that. So this car here is Stage 2, this car is Stage 2 as well, but we've additionally fitted a methanol kit on it as well, and by having that methanol kit, we're able to go crazy. This car has actually managed a 2.1 0 to 60, it's managed a 9.4 quarter mile and a 4.3 100 to 200, which is astronomical numbers. It's actually the fastest stock engine, stock turbo G80 M3 in the country at the moment, and it's running 900 brake horsepower. That is a package that we don't offer yet to people. We offer our 800 brake package because we are testing this in terms of reliability and what the car is actually able to do. Most of the guys out there with our 800 brake package, they're doing the 4.900 to 200, they're doing the 9.9 quarter mile, and if development goes well with this car and we have no issues, then we will offer that to those people out there. So far we've done Nürburgring, Santa Pod, Race Wars, officially gassed, it's been everywhere getting hammered, but we need to ensure that that is safe for everyone. When it comes to tuning as well, there's pros and cons to both of these platforms. For example, with this car being a 2019, You can tune this without having to send the ECUs away. Any BMW after June 2020, there's additional costs involved, as with this car. Now, if you buy one of these, do remember that if it's after June 2020, you've got to send the ECU away, and there is 2 of them, so it's quite expensive to get them unlocked. When it comes to the benefits of this car, although it costs more to get it tuned because of the unlock procedure, there are extra features that you can unlock. For example, this has got anti-lag, it's got true flex fuel, and it's got switchable maps through the steering wheel. So when we're on our 99 petrol, we've got 700, 600 and 500 brake, all flickable throughout the steering wheel. And although that we can change maps on this one, it needs us to flash the car, which is about a 1.5 minute long process, instead of being able to do it on the fly like we can with the G80. In terms of size, there's not actually that much between the M5 and the M3. They're both quite large cars, but once you're inside, there's a lot more room inside the M5. So if you that are traveling with people in the back most of the time, you're probably going to want to push towards the M5 instead of the M3, especially if they're older children or adults. When it comes to the interior, I'd say it goes to the M5. Purely based on the level of comfort you get with these seats and the way that the interior looks. So this is a pre-LCI, so it has the earlier dash, and funnily enough, if you get an M5 with the later dash, it's got the same one as my G80, although the G80 can also come with a newer dash that is like a flat screen and looks really fancy. But I would say if I've got to decide where I want to be for a few hours, there's nowhere I'd rather be than inside an M5. The level of comfort is amazing. These seats are massaged, they're heated, they're cooled, and we've got fragrances that we can have running through the aircon. So yeah, it smells really good in here, looks really good, feels really good. In the M3 now, as you can see, it's not quite as big in the back, so if you've got small children, it's not really going to make a difference. But if you've got adults getting in the back a lot, I'd say they'd rather be sat inside the M5 rather than this. The M3 interior definitely looks more sporty. As you can see here, I do have the older style dash, but for me, I'm more interested in performance than dashes. These seats are also their cheaper seats, so you can get the ultimate ones with buckets. I am not that flexible, and getting in and out of the bucket seats is bloody horrible, so I've opted for these. For you guys that do like those other seats, I do recommend having a sit in them first, especially if you weigh more than about 10 stone. Although the M3 and the M5 look a similar size on the outside, inside I'd definitely say that the M3 feels smaller, but it also feels quite sporty and a nice place to be. Over to the M5 interior, there's a bit more leather in here. Everything looks a little bit more well built, and I would say if you're going to be doing a few hours inside a car, this is the one you want to do it in. The feel inside here is not quite so sporty as the M3, but it really feels like a nice place to be. Going out for a meal or you've got a long trip ahead, this is the perfect place to be sat. In terms of boot space, they're both pretty big actually. You could get a fair amount of luggage in here. That is obviously not a standard part, that's actually our methanol tank. But you look inside the M3 boot, it's quite big, and they've both got options like electric open and close. Here's the M5 boot. As you can see, I daily this a lot, so I've got this down here to protect it. Boot is a little bit bigger, but I wouldn't say you're going to be lacking for space on the G80 anyway. And again, we've got the automatic close. Under the bonnet of the M5, and we've got a few changes, nothing major, but we are using the M Venturi intakes and the turbo inlets, and up here we have the RK coolant tank. So for you guys that are not clued up on this platform, that coolant tank actually has a recall from BMW now, and when it leaks, which it does, it goes over the injectors, it goes over the coils, and it can have engine damage. So this solution means that no more plastic tanks splitting, and you can drive around without worrying about your car suddenly misfiring. So as we see, nice big 4.4, and as you guys got to hear earlier, this thing sounds awesome. Off over to the engine bay of the M3 now. You may see this here is not standard, that is our methanol kit, and again we have the M Venturis fitted on this car. On both the cars it makes a massive improvement to the sound, and in this case and that case there are turbo inlets as well, which help with the way that the cars spool up. Believe it or not, even though this is a 3 litre straight six, this engine is actually stronger than the 4.4, but I would say that they're both pretty reliable. I've had this one for 3 years now, and like this weekend, I'm taking the car over to Germany with my family. So I've got a lot of trust in both vehicles. One area where the M3 and the M5 differ a lot is handling and the way they actually drive. The M3 is a lot more nimble, can get around corners a lot faster, the brakes are a lot sharper, so for a track day or Nürburgring, you really want to be in the M3. It is a crazy car to drive fast, especially when pushed to its limits. The M5, on the other hand, is still an M car, so I'm not saying it can't brake or get around a corner, but it is a bigger vehicle and you can feel it when you're inside. This feels a lot more nimble and reactive place to be. For you guys that are going to have two cars and this is just going to be a weekend toy, I would say that the M3 is going to be a great place to go hit the back roads or track. For you guys that are going to be using the car every day, maybe you want to be in an M5. M5 is really good for high speed work with that big V8, but for corners and back roads and track days, the M3 wins. Let's talk about reliability with the cars. So I've had this one for 3 years now and it's been pretty good for me, apart from one issue that's been reoccurring, and that was leaking expansion tanks. The problem with these tanks is when they leak, it goes all over your spark plugs, all over your injectors, you get a misfire, and in some cases people have actually had engine damage occur because of it. Luckily, BMW have now brought out a recall, but for people like me, it don't matter because we've already replaced the tank with a billet version that cannot leak. So that's been the #1 issue, I would say, with M5s. A second issue that we've seen on some cars, not mine, is the low pressure fuel pumps dying out. What will happen is the car will struggle to turn on, it might cut out as you turn it on, there'll be errors in the ECU for low pressure on startup, and that seems to be an issue that has become common and known on the platform. When it comes to BMWs, one thing that has plagued them has been rod bearings. We've seen rod bearings issues on E36, E46, E92, F10 M5s, S55s now. I can literally name all the engines that have had rod bearing issues, and these are no different. What we tend to see is once the cars get to about 70,000 miles, you're starting to be in a risky position. Half the people that change them as a preventative measure pull their bearings out and they look perfect. The other half take them out and they look pretty worn. What do I believe is the cause for that? I believe it is poor servicing and poor warm-up. I believe that the oil should be changed on these every 5k, which is a lot more often than what BMW recommend, and you also want to take like 15 minutes to warm this up. If the oil needle has not moved and the car is still cold, you're going to be causing damage to that engine if you're hammering the crap out of it. For example, we see people in car parks doing the pops and bangs, putting their foot down, bang, 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 bang. Car is freezing cold, and that is going to prematurely wear the engine. In the case of where you do get engine damage, it's always worse with these cars because the engines are a lot more expensive than what they would be on a straight six, for example. You have an engine problem, it could cost you 14, 15, 16,000 pounds to get resolved. So it's really important that you look after these. Another thing we've been cursed with as well is mileage blockers. You think you're buying a nice car with 40,000 miles on the clock, but really it's done 70, 80k and they've reupholstered it or they've kept some of the servicing off of it, so you get in it and you think it looks lovely, but the car's done a ton of miles and you don't know about it, and really that car should have been having its bearings done on it. As the cars get older, we tend to see more issues. So these cars are still not particularly old yet, but like a F10 M5, for example, we know that at 70k, valve stem seals is an issue and the rod bearings is an issue. You go look at a S55, people are doing crank hubs on them, the turbos get worn out. So unfortunately, there's no real engines out there that seem to be absolutely bulletproof. But if there was an engine that was pretty bulletproof in terms of BMW standards, it would go to the S58. The S58 doesn't have the crank hub issues. The bearings do have a different coating on them. We're yet to see whether the bearings are going to last any better or not. But BMW have made a change in that department. If I was to say about what engine I think is more reliable and what car I think is more reliable, I would have to give it to the M3 because, like I said, the M5 has had problems with coolant tanks and low pressure pumps, where I haven't seen any of that with the M3 yet. That being said, both cars have been particularly good to me. I look after them both, and this weekend I'm actually going to go all the way to the Nürburgring with my missus and my little 5-year-old, and we're going to be taking this. So if it was a car that I wasn't confident in, I wouldn't own it, let alone take my family across Europe in it. We've gone over things like reliability, price, performance, way that the cars drive, the noises that they make. I've tried to give you as much of a detailed comparison as I can. Now, what one would I prefer? Which car do I think is better? Well, My answer is based on my lifestyle, and for me, the answer goes to the M5. I absolutely love this car. I feel so happy when I'm in it. Even if I'm just poodling down the road at 20 mile an hour, I've got a big grin on my face like a Cheshire cat. If I was 15 years younger and I didn't have a missus and a kid and I was just interested in driving like an absolute nutter everywhere, it would have to be the S58, it would have to be the M3. The M3 is a real crazy car with so much tuning potential, and it is a real head turner. So depending on your lifestyle, depending on what you like to do with cars, is going to be the deciding factor in which car is better. But hopefully with this video, you're able to make a better decision. For you guys that are looking to buy an M5, maybe check out our video on the buyer's guide for those. And for you guys that are looking on tuning for either of these packages, we have done videos on them both. Thank you for watching.